Call to order January 6, 2026, meeting of the North Andover Planning Board. Jean, could you please take roll?
Here. Sean Kevelim.
Here.
John Simons.
Here.
Eitan Goldberg.
Here.
Peter Boynton.
Yeah, aye.
Okay, bond release, 492 Sutton Street, Homegrown Lacrosse LLC. Request for release of a $10,000 performance bond associated with the December 5th, 2023 site plan review special permit and a $4,000 watershed protection district special permit performance bond. The approvals allow for the development of a 2.5 plus or minus acre leased area on the Lawrence Municipal Airport property fronting on Sutton Street, which includes construction of a 39,100 foot athletic facility with office space, parking lot, utilities, and drainage improvements.
Yep, so the site is fully constructed and operational for some time now. The engineer certification letter and as-built plan are included in your meeting packet. There were a few field changes that were made. They include installation of a gravel entrance drive to the rear of the site. It connects Terminal Road to an overhead door for emergency access, which I thought was appropriate. They did cover that with me. They also covered some overflow parking, which is to the right of the entrance drive. Cars were parking on the grass. I thought it would be more efficient if they had a permeable overflow designated parking area. The building commissioner approved it according to zoning. So that was shown, and that is shown on the as-built plan. A dumpster pad was not added, which showed on the plan. Totes are being utilized for trash management, and curb stops are utilized in the northern side of the parking lot instead of concrete curbs, which is shown on the plan. The one change that was not reviewed with me prior to implementation was a stone drip edge was installed along the roof line rather than a gutter system. The reasoning giving is the gutter system, it was certainly less cost, but it was structural reinforcement of the gutters would have introduced and likely resulted in redesign of the trusses across the building itself. The stone trench is connected to the overflow under the parking lot. It's a permeable parking lot that drains to a basin and is connected to that. It is working appropriately. I think it meets stormwater regs. Again, it's something that I thought would be covered before implementation, but it's been implemented, and the engineer has attested to it meets stormwater management requirements.
Do you think we're in a position that we can release the bond money?
I think so. They've been open long enough, through seasons long enough, that if any issue was going to be evident, it would have been evident by now. There have been no abutter concerns raised. They were raised at the time of permitting because the abutters have a detention basin that they wanted to make sure any of this flow was not going to that, and it hasn't gone to that.
Great. Questions, comments? Okay, could we have a motion to release bond funds for 492 Sutton Street?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. 318 Salem Street, request for release of $4,000 performance bond associated with the December 3rd, 2004, is that right? Is this supposed to be
2024.
2004,
sorry.
Well, okay, 2024 Watershed Protection District Special Permit that allowed for the installation of a 15 by 32 in-ground swimming pool, a 4-foot concrete apron, and a 6-foot high privacy fence within the 325 non-discharge zone.
Yeah, so this is a little bit more straightforward. The engineer certification letter and the as-built are included in your plan. It was built according to the specified plan and the conditions.
Okay, could we get a motion to release bond funds for 318 Salem Street?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's approved. How long do you think that 243 Great Pond is going to be?
Should be quick.
Let's do that one next then. 243 Great Pond Road, Steve Boyko, application for a watershed special permit under section 195, article 4, part 5, and article 10, 195.10 of the North Andover zoning bylaw. The applicant proposes to remove an existing sports court and construct a greenhouse within the non-discharge buffer zone. Project is located within the R1 zoning district.
Alright, so the stormwater peer review has been completed. A draft decision has been prepared for your consideration. I just noted in my staff report that finding of fact number 1D, I tried to capture the conversation regarding fertilizer use within the greenhouse. the standard fertilizer deed restriction is included as a condition as well. So for the entire property, the standard condition is included.
Okay, do we have anyone here for that one? Have a seat. Thank you. Okay, so the only thing what we were waiting on last time was just the peer review stormwater, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's all been addressed. Okay, anything that you want to add, any changes, anything different from what we were?
No, Mike Novak from Patriot, and the applicant is here as well. We reviewed the conditions, we have no problem with anything there, so.
Okay, any questions, comments? Kate?
Fine.
Kate, John?
There's an edit.
Everybody, yep, I made a copy with that red line
Oh,
in
and
it,
that
so everybody
hard
has it. Kate has recommended revised language for the condition that has been fairly standard, that if there's any changes to the plan, that they need to reach out to me. If I determine them substantial, they need to come for modification, otherwise I can approve them. But
So that's
it's red line edit on condition number 5.
special condition number 5.
Yep.
And-
Okay, so we'll do it as amended.
My question is does that work in practice? I mean, I would assume this would be kind of language that we could pick up in future permits as well, but does that reflect what actually happens?
Yeah, I found it pretty similar to what was there. I mean, like I said, normally, if there's going to be a material change to the plans, then people contact me ahead of that.
But if there's an insubstantial change, they tell you about it when they're doing that.
Yep, normally if there's a field change that, again, if they deem needs to be covered, then they talk to me. If they're going to install an air conditioner unit on the side of a house that wasn't on their plan, they might install an air conditioner unit. I mean, it's hard to quantify exactly each project, what field changes are, but for the most part, if it's during the pre-construction meeting, I have the contractor, I have the property owner, I have the engineer, and we go through, don't do anything before asking. I can't express more than that I make it clear that no matter what the change is, you may not deem it a material, I might deem it material, and it's better to talk about it first.
And in practice, does that work for
Yeah,
developers?
if you'd like, that's a pretty standard condition for a site plan
Yeah.
review. And typically, what happens is, I can give you a quick idea, is that we have the pre-construction meeting, we have the criteria. If a contractor wants to change something, usually they'll call me because I've prepared the plan. In your instance where you said adding an air conditioner, if we changed the type of air conditioner, I probably wouldn't let you know, but if we moved the air conditioner, that's something that I would at least email and say, this is what we're doing, do you want to see anything, do you want to know? And then I would get guidance, and then anything bigger that I would deem might have to come back to the board would be anything that would affect the drainage design or the location of the structure or something along those lines, major changes in terms of when I give you the as-built, the plan is going to look different versus, oh, we just changed this type of stone, we made it a prettier stone, but it's still stone. I hope that helps
Yep.
a little bit.
Yep.
Gene, where was the condition about the fertilizer?
There's 1.6, I believe.
Yeah, 1 Roman numeral 7. Or no, it's
Or the-
D on page 3. Little D.
I see it. Okay, thank you.
I think on page 4, it skips from number 6 to number 8, unless I'm reading that wrong.
Yep.
Have your savvy, though.
Can we get a motion to approve the watershed special?
we close
Oh, get a motion to close the public hearing. Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to approve the watershed special permit as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Good luck with the greenhouse.
John, were you the second? Were you the second?
Yeah.
Okay. 1591 Osgood Street, Singh Realty Group LLC, application for site plan review, corridor development district, inclusionary housing special permit. Part 3, site plan review, and Part 13, inclusionary housing zoning, Article 16, corridor development, and Article 10, administration of the North Andover zoning bylaw. Applicant proposes demolition of the existing structure and construction of a 4-story building with a 15,290 square foot footprint. The first floor is proposed to be retail and self-storage, and the second to fourth floors are proposed to be 38 residential units along with parking, landscaping, and associated improvements. The project is located within the corridor development district 3 and residential 2 zoning districts. Gene, why don't you tell us where we're at, and then we'll hear from the applicants and go from there.
So a lot has happened since the last planning board meeting.
Okay.
You may recall that the peer review, both all three, civil, traffic, and stormwater had been submitted, but they were not responded to yet. They've all been responded to at this point. The applicant's response for traffic is included in your peer review. It was just a one-off, so they wrote a peer review, they responded to it. For the most part, what's conditioned is Mass DOT is going to weigh in with an access permit in terms of both markings on Osgood Street as well as the intersection of the new driveway and Osgood Street. And so that was recommended to be conditioned, that we get a copy of that access permit, and if any material changes are warranted, that they have to come back for a modification. Revised architectural plans are now included in your packet. You saw those last year. It was more of a darker tone with the lighter contrast. They're in your meeting packet. The civil review has been completed. However, they deferred 3 different items that we'll go through to the planning board. And so I do want to go through those in detail, one of which I think is going to take a little bit of a discussion. Horsley Witten, the stormwater peer reviewer, has not done their final sign-off. So the applicant has responded to their comments. In reading through it, it appears that they've satisfied what she was asking for. However, it's been customary for this board to request that final letter be in hand. Whether you want to condition that final letter in hand, again, I'll defer to the board for that, whether you want to condition it. The response is in your packet, and it does address each of the open items. So for the peer review, the civil peer review just commented that there's 2 refuge areas, so 2 compactors in the back for residential, only 1 in the front for the commercial. Just questioned whether that's going to be enough. The applicant responded that they think it is, but if it's insufficient, the pad is going to be poured large enough to add refuge areas if it's warranted. And the civil consultant just said, I defer to the board whether they think that's acceptable. The second is there's no recycling location shown on the plan. And again, the applicant's response is the dumpster locations can be modified to accommodate recycling operations if needed. And the last one is, while sidewalks and pedestrian access have been added to the front of the site, there is no exterior pedestrian path proposed from the residential portion of the site in the rear to the front of the site. And the applicant's response to that was, we defer to the board for their consideration of the need for pedestrian paths. And so that's the one that I said will warrant a little bit more discussion. That's all I have on that. So that's all I have. I did prepare a draft decision. I put a placeholder in for the final stormwater review date, but that is the only outstanding item other than whether you want to make the first 2 items that the civil engineer deferred as findings of fact, that we're okay with the refuge as long as there's capacity to add, and whether we're okay with no recycling as long as it can be added if needed. It's the sidewalk. I didn't use the condition. Like, I don't know how you feel about that.
So, on the recycling, what's DPW's stance on a facility like this being able to accommodate recycling?
This is going to be a private developer and a private pickup.
But recycling services could be provided.
They could be provided if, again, the applicant just said if warranted, they could provide recycling.
Why would it not be warranted?
So, like Jean said, we can provide that service. We are proposing a double dumpster to the rear with the double dumpster design, you could do one for trash and then the other bay for recycling. And then in the front, right now we're proposing a single bay for trash, but what we can do is either pour a double wide pad for that expansion if we need it, and then just have parking over that second concrete pad, and then if it needs to be expanded, we can. Or we can just go ahead and do that and do a trash bay and recycling bay, and we would lose a space out front. But I think we have the parking capacity to do that if the board's comfortable with it, to pick up that recycling space. So we can accommodate that if it's something the board wants to see.
I was gonna say, it's hard to, I guess it's hard for us to say how much trash and I guess we kind of need more from the expertise of the people doing the project of how much trash and recycling is necessary for a project of this size. I just don't know the answer to that.
Well, maybe just to build off that, given that there's tenants plus, I think was it the first floor is going to be potentially storage. So I guess usually the recycling limiting thing with recycling is usually corrugated cardboard,
Mhm.
right, for storage. So
Yeah,
I guess
good
that's one of the things.
Yeah, I guess you can have a good sense from 38 units how much recycling or trash they're going to be, I would assume. But yeah, if people are moving in boxes in and out, there's
Yeah.
probably going to be extra trash and recycling from that.
Plus you got commercial uses on the first floor, right? So
Yeah, and there's flexibility with the dumpster size. Dumpsters, they'll come in a consistent footprint, but they'll have several different heights of how tall they get, so you can up your cubic yardage. So there's flexibility on that. If we get our CO and things get started and we feel like there's insufficient capacity, the company can switch out a larger dumpster, and we can also modify pickup.
Right, you got to pick up
so-
more frequently.
Yeah,
as well.
instead of a weekly, we go to a bi-weekly, and so there's things we can tweak and adjust to kind of fine tune it after the fact. If we feel like we're over picking up, have over capacity, or vice versa if we have under.
So personally, I think I like the idea that you mentioned of having the capacity to have front and back trash and recycling, and then just if you don't need it, then use it as a parking spot. If you don't need the parking, then use it as the trash. But whichever, I think the market kind of will set that. So as long,
Right.
I'd say what we'd like, Gene, is to have it available for trash and recycling, both the front and the back, and then they can figure it out with once
Can we
each.
put that in the
Yeah.
decision?
It'll be a condition
Yeah.
once you get to the decision.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Pedestrian access. Talk to us about that. It does. If someone was walking along Osgood Street and so they're taking their kid for a walk, and they're gonna go home, how do they get in the building?
So there's two ways they could do it.
Can you pull up? Can you describe it while we see it?
Yeah, sure. So we do have we've got great pedestrian connectivity with Osgood from the front of the building. You can see that sidewalk come up our driveway.
Hold on. Let's.
Yeah, we can.
Let's
C2 would be the
get it.
best one for it.
Let me download it first.
Page 4. The site plan, page 4, C2 would be the best one. Yep. So,
Okay. So let's have our parent and kid walking down Osgood Street.
Yep. So they would, so you can see there on the north side of our driveway, the sidewalk comes up. There's a tip down, a painted crossing, tip back up, and then the sidewalk connects to the front sidewalk thoroughfare along the retail, and then also goes to the loading area. That's where the exterior pedestrian access ends. Now there
And where's?
is,
Oh, sorry.
stairwell. That's fine. There is stairwell and elevator access internally in the building. The internals of the building can be configured so that the access to the front could be through the building. So they would come through a door on the front of the building on the first floor and go up the stairwell, up the elevator internally. And then the other solution we could do as an alternative or in addition to that is we could continue that sidewalk past the loading up the side of our driveway. Now the problem is we run into a pinch point on the building. I've spoken with the architect, we could notch that out. You need 3 foot clear width for ADA compliancy for just travel way. Or what we could do is do a crossing. So you get to where you run out of real estate on that pinch point, and we'll do a crossing to the south side of the driveway, and then it'll bring you the rest of the way. Yep, to that little landscape island there at the top, and then it would be a tip down to the parking field. So we have some options there to provide that kind of pedestrian access.
Do you have a preference?
They both have their merits. I think internal access has some benefits. We would have to do some tweaking to the internals of the building as it's currently configured. I think we can do that. But I can also take a look at getting that sidewalk up that side of the driveway. I think both are viable. It's really up to the discretion of the board.
Is that at the expense of the landscape?
I think the sidewalk that would have to be on that south side of the driveway would be just kind of that last, 20%. Yeah, right where your cursor is. Just there, when you get to the pinch point of the building on the inside, where you'd have to make that crossing. So the majority of that green strip on the south side of the property would be maintained. It would just be that last 30, 40 feet. The sidewalk would come up and across.
Seems I like the internal. I mean, that if it's bad weather, if it's winter, if it's raining, to be able to just go in right there and then have access seems, and not have to, and less time in the parking lot seems better to me. I don't know if anyone has opinions.
That's how I land.
Yep.
So why don't we do this? Why don't, Kate, anything?
Yeah, and I liked your scenario, but I'm also thinking of this scenario where a child or a middle schooler is getting off the bus and trying to walk home.
Yeah.
And so access to if it was an internal access where they went up in an elevator, they would need some kind of pass key, or I don't know how people are entering in the building, or is it?
Yeah.
Mark, you want to step in on that?
Mark Cannon was principal of LYF Architects, designed the building. So the interior of the building is somewhat flexible, though where we presently have the lobby, which is in the rear of the building, there's elevator access is closer to the rear as it is. So the question, and there are 2 stairs presently to the rear. That the building could be refigured, so it'd be easy to get an internal access with one of the stairs to the front of the building, and having also elevator access might be a little more redesign that would take to provide that as well. Not impossible, but certainly capable. And I would envision, it's probably better to keep that at the stair access, in my mind, would be the separation between the commercial units and the public the storage area. And so that brings you kind of internally to the intersection of the L, with the stairs. So that could easily be done stair-wise. Again, a redesign for the elevator to also access might be a little more challenging. Thinking that, we have accessible entrance in the rear for a handicapped person that might be visiting, they would not be walking down Osgood as much, a visitor. So it'd be easy to have pedestrian access, I think, to the front of the building, commercial zone. Equally, if a resident wanted to visit one of the businesses in front, I could see that being helpful. But I'd be more inclined for it not, the elevator stay at the rear.
So, I mean, go ahead.
Does pedestrian access through the front of the building to get to, say, the elevators, to get to the normal access point, does that create any type of security issue where the commercial space is somewhat segregated from the residential space, and this would now, or is it not segregated? It's
No, they are
free-flowing.
segregated. There'll be fire rating, different controls. So there's no direct access from the residential to any of the commercial, although we were allowing vertical access to the self-storage. But the self-storage is also feeding the public. So if a resident wanted to store something, they would be like the public.
So if we chose this option for pedestrian access through the building, it does not degrade any type of segregation that's already established?
No, not at all.
So my thought would be we say, because I do think there should be pedestrian access from Osgood Street to the residential. So the condition I would, as I'm thinking, would be that the development will require pedestrian, will enable pedestrian access through the interior of the building to the residential portion, and kind of leave it at that without being any more
Yeah.
specific. And if for some reason you start doing it, trying to reconfigure it, and you can't do it, it doesn't work, just come back and then we can take a look at the outside option.
Sidewalk option.
Yeah, the sidewalk option. Yeah, I think this is the preferable option, but if you try to do it and it's like, oh no, for something comes up and you can't do it, then let's find a different way to do it. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So those are the civil things. Anything else that needs to be?
We talked last time, I think, about some vehicular barriers
Yep.
and also the curb reveal, and we had a discussion of where that's going to show up. There were some sections in here, Gene, that seemed to kind of fit that. I wonder if it could be added. I'm trying to find where it is now, but it seemed to be very specific about those type of,
Are you referring to the decision?
what's that?
Are you referring to the
Yeah.
decision?
Yeah.
Are there bollards on the plan now?
Yep.
Can we point out where they are on the plan?
I'm not recalling which bollards we're referring to.
We're outside the
We're gonna
residential
space them
entrance.
Outside the residential entrance.
Oh, yes, yeah, having bollards by the front door in case a car
Right.
did the jump. Yeah, I don't see me.
I think
don't
there was a
see-
note added. to the
Yeah, I
plan.
think it's done by note.
Yeah.
Okay.
For that protection.
Let's just,
Although it's escaping me where it's living on the plans. But yes, that's the intent, is to have that bollard protection on that residential access door.
okay. Let's see if we can find that, because if it's
Yeah.
in the plan, then we don't necessarily need it. And,
Yeah, it was in paragraph 15 and then A through F. I wondered if because it's dealing with related things, if it should just go there as well, but if it's in the plan, whatever is deemed
Yeah.
sufficient.
Can we see if we can just find that? I don't know if it'd be on the demolition plan or if it'd be on a different plan.
And I think we also discussed last time that the curb reveal was specified at 6 inches as another vehicular stop, is that right?
Yes, yep, we're calling out our curb reveal at 6 inches within the
And
details.
where is that called out?
So on the detail plans, sheet D1, you'll see our vertical granite curbing detail. That reveal is called out at 6 inches.
Okay, thank you.
And the monolithic concrete curb, which is when they'll cast the whole curb as just a concrete slab.
Yep,
That's also called out on sheet D1
All
at
right.
6 inches.
thank you.
Yep,
And then that leaves us with the bollard question.
yep. Yeah, and I'm not, I apologize for not being able to locate it. I have no objections to having it be a condition of approval to make sure we capture it, though.
Would that fit in that 15A through F, Gene, or is there a better
If
place?
it's not there today, and I think it is there today, but if it's not, that's a finding of fact. It would have to be conditioned
Yeah, right.
that the bollards need to be added to the plan set or to a note on the plan. But again, I think that was done. But belt and suspenders, we can add that as a condition.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So let's add a condition that there will be protective bollards outside, in front of the residential doorway.
Okay, and then we're going to talk at all about the traffic piece. We talked last time about the challenge of a left turn out of here and whether or not there was a need or room for a separate left turn lane coming out, and I don't know if that was under consideration or where we ended up with that.
Sure. Was there any additional thought after additional traffic?
Yeah, our traffic consultant's not here this evening.
I am actually.
Oh, are you here? Oh, you are here. I'll be.
Well, I know.
I'll defer to you if you want to touch on that, but I think where we left off was, as part of the Mass DOT review process, I think that's gonna get looked at as an item of consideration and defer to Mass DOT what their thoughts were on it. I do know there's a condition of approval in here for 1-year traffic monitoring to see how we measure up to what the analysis showed. And then we can kind of reevaluate after that year of observation, but defer to.
Yeah, no, that's all correct, and I will just also state that the peer reviewer did not have any concerns with that or bring up any questions related to that issue.
That's what I was gonna add. It didn't come up in the
So,
traffic peer review.
So, one second.
For the record, I'm Derek Roach with Vanessa and
Thanks,
Associates.
Derek. So, there's gonna be what reviews do we have?
So we have lighting. 'Cause
Yeah.
there was concern raised from a butter about lighting.
Yeah.
And traffic.
Can we do a accident data review? Like, give us the crash data for, I mean, you really don't have to do anything other than someone provide the crash data for that area for 2 years afterwards.
I can add in the condition for the traffic review to include crash data.
Yeah.
It's part of the traffic analysis anyway, so they
Sure.
should do that, but we can,
So yeah,
again,
let's make
just
sure we have
reinforce
crash
it.
data, that way, if we do see there were 3 accidents there and they were all left turns, then maybe we need to make an alteration. If there's no crashes, then it seems to be working good.
And
Can I just add, the peer reviewer did bring up crash data in the corridor, and it was interesting to me, but actually since Amazon's been implemented, the crashes have actually gone down in that area.
interesting.
So,
It actually probably makes sense because they added the
the
lights.
lights which allow gaps,
Yeah.
it's true.
Right.
So,
Right, and just when you're taking the left with the lights, you're able to kind of time with the lights to get out there.
yeah,
So-
it's just counter to, your intuitiveness.
Can I pose a question? It's an informational question.
Sure.
I was looking at this myself after our last meeting and discussion, and was there any consideration to help enable left turns for consideration or room for a frontage road to allow people from this property to get to the nearest signal along a frontage road? Now, there is no frontage road. I'm asking, was that something that was ever considered, and would there even be space? Is it completely impractical?
On 125?
Yeah.
Or wouldn't that be in the right of way? Wouldn't Mass DOT have to approve that?
I would think so.
Yeah, they definitely would. And I've never heard of Mass DOT really doing that before, so.
Like I say, it's an informational
Yeah,
question.
It's an interesting thought, but
I'm getting kind of
if
a
you
lot
had,
of
if you had,
shocked looks.
I mean, if you had bigger retail complexes in the area, they do sometimes interconnect those, but that's not really what you have here.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I was curious what the take was on it. I mean, there's a lot of places that have frontage roads for that purpose, and, you know, I think they're kind of a mixed bag. So,
yeah.
and there's a space issue. Okay, thank you for addressing it.
All right,
No problem.
anybody? Thank you.
I just had, Gene, one question. How did we resolve the rooftop utility units?
So if I remember correctly, I conditioned it needs to be suitably
Sheltered.
screened, and if
Okay.
not, they have to come back for modification.
Okay, yeah.
Any public comments? Members of the public? Seeing none. Gene, none have come in, I take it?
No.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, any other board questions or comments? Anything you want to add? Oh, how do we want to do, we don't have final sign off from stormwater.
Okay, so I do have an email on that.
Okay.
So we can scan through this very quickly. So,
No further comment.
condition of approval, coordination with Mass DOT, and I have conditioned that. No further action. No further action. Modify to clarify the site within the Merrimack River Basin, no further
So
action.
Chair, is this new document part of the public hearing that no one's seen?
Yep.
And that hasn't been posted?
It is now because I've displayed it, and so it has to be reflected in meeting materials for the meeting.
We just got it just now. Yes. Everyone just got it just
But you're considering it in the public hearing and offering us an opportunity to ask questions about a document we haven't seen.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm going to bring up the same thing with regard to the draft decision document, but that's after the hearing closed. But
Yes. Yeah. I mean, none of these necessarily need to be provided beforehand, but yes, this is new information, and we can decide whether we need more time to review it. If we need more time to review it, then we can continue this until another date. If we don't need more time, then we can move on.
What do you mean by the draft decision?
the one we received at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, so that was added to
At
the
3 o'clock,
packet.
4 hours ago, yeah.
Yeah, it used to be before we did any of that, it was introduced at the meeting itself.
Yeah.
So ahead of being able to link agendas and things like that, it was just at the meeting, everybody had a hard copy packet of anything that was submitted. So,
Most places that I know, the decisions aren't posted anywhere. That's just something that the board does without any.
Without sharing with the applicant or the public.
Yep. Because it's not actually part of, the decision's not actually part of the hearing, it's just the decision, that's why we should close the
Correct,
hearing. So-
but the decision is the definitive document.
Correct, so generally most places don't publish those at all. But, so, the question before us now is do we want to review this document now? And do we have enough time to do so?
Is this the Horsley Witten?
Yes.
just came in, I just got an
Yeah.
email.
Oh, it just came in.
Yeah, like
Okay.
literally just came in. So,
Okay, now I'm tracking.
our
Okay.
options are look it over now, see if there are any conditions that are requested, we can do that now, we can continue it until 2 weeks and
So-
have time to do it, or we can condition that everything be approved. Those
Is
are
there-
options.
Is there a reason that we wouldn't take the time so that, this could be looked at?
Just depends on what it is and what, and what it says.
To me, the criteria there would be how material is what we're talking about, because if it's pro forma, fill in the box, I wouldn't want to wait another 2 weeks, but if it could have any kind of material impact on the decision we make, it would be worth waiting.
From the last thing I submitted to Horsley Witten, there was about a dozen comments. I was confident in all my responses to them. None of them really substantial in nature. It was a lot of kind of nuts and bolts tweaking, and doesn't materially change really anything significantly about the project. I'm very confident, these could be resolved with Horsley and Witten, rather easily, if we wanted to do them as a condition of approval.
So the only item back in this final peer review memo, if you want to carry it to the next meeting, it's fine with you, but they all say the issue's been resolved, no further comment, except for this one paragraph here, where they've landed with 89% TSS removal. And she's commenting that our stormwater bylaw requires 90% TSS removal. So,
Is there some urgency to getting an approval today, or is there's more approvals that you have to get before the project can proceed, correct? Like Department of Transportation?
Correct. But they're all triggered off of each other. So in addition to this, we need Conservation Commission. Conservation Commission won't act until you act, and then we can't even submit to DOT until we have the local
When's your
approvals in place.
Concom meeting?
The 14th.
And Gene, just a quick question, does Concom review the stormwater?
they do. We share a peer review, so they'll get this in the morning as
Okay.
well.
Gene, am I reading this, that this thing is off by 1%?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Or we'll just put a condition in, it's gotta be 90% and be done with it.
So,
Seems to me an easy solution. I mean, since we're pretty close.
I don't know enough about the,
We can.
can you make it so that will it reach 90%, or does that?
We can make this work. We can make that work.
Okay.
With the amount of systems we have on site, we can resolve this matter.
And I would send that to Horsley Witten to get confirmation on that, obviously, because I can't calculate that.
Okay.
Do we have a copy of this document?
I can email it right now. No, Kate, I'm sorry, I'm trying to explain that Aton asked me if I got any emails, and I said no initially, because I hadn't checked my email, but when I checked my email, this is what I saw. So I literally just got it, like 1 second ago. No, this is AM, and I didn't get it this morning.
No, that was your email. Yours came in at 7:21.
Right,
Yeah.
so
But you just checked it.
it's 7:21.
23 minutes ago.
Okay, so I'm happy to forward it if you want to review it now. If you want to carry it, you can carry it.
I mean, I'll defer to the will of the majority of the board. I'm content in moving forward, but it's
I mean-
what the majority of people want to do.
Just to be clear, but that was the only comment, everything else was no further comment?
That's what I saw when I
Yep.
scanned through it.
But if you guys want time to, if people want time to review it, that's fine.
So the public hearing's still open right now,
Yep.
right? So
Public hearing's
what
still
you're
open.
talking about, when you say moving forward, you mean move forward to close the public hearing?
Yep. So me personally, and this is just me, one of 5, having just kind of scrolled through it and has seen hundreds of these, that it says no action required, no action required, no action required, no action required, so that is content. I mean, the other thing we could do, we would have done if we could have done if we hadn't gotten that in, we could have waited for it to come in, or we could have said, put a condition that you must meet all of the peer reviews, comments, and the planning director signs off. We've done that. several times.
To that point too, you could, you could just go with the satisfying all of course the written conditions, and then, treat it as if this hadn't come in. You just have the assurance of knowing that the only thing that we need to go back to the drawing board with them on that's easily resolvable is the 90% threshold.
Yeah, I'm reading it on the fly, but looking at that with you folks, I mean, I'm seeing that we're, with the horse thing win, we're 99.99% there.
And it needs to go to Concom.
And we could take care of that.
But, yeah, I mean, we are under no obligation to finish this today, so if people are more comfortable reading this over and coming back in 2 weeks, we can do that. So I guess everyone can just kind of say how they want, or we can vote on it, or we can take a recess and review it, and decide if you want 10 minutes to review it, and then if there's something that pops up and said, hey, I want more time, then we can do that.
Well, for me, at a minimum, to include in the condition that the applicant has to meet all of the reviewer comments.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. And that the plan,
90%
what's
threshold.
that?
And meet the 90% threshold.
Yes, but
It's including.
what if there's other comments in that the quick scan didn't catch?
Yeah.
So it's not just the 90.
No, I understand.
And then, the planning officer okay it.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what.
But that's just me.
I'm fine going
fine
with it
with
as
that
is,
too.
so
I'm fine
I mean,
with
that's
that.
fine. But let's do it this way. Here's what we're gonna do. We're going to take a 10-minute recess. Anyone who wants to review it now can, just to look it over, and if there's something that pops up that makes you question even more, then we'll come back. I'd like at least 10 minutes just to look it through.
Okay, did you forward it to all of us?
I haven't yet. I'm going to take it off of the screen while I get into my email.
Okay,
Okay.
So
great.
Gene, could I get an email
Yep.
you'll
as well?
get an
Yeah.
email.
Give us
I can
a-
take a peek myself.
Yep. Let's do that. So we're gonna take a 10-minute recess.
Okay. Before we close, Mr. Chairman, just quickly, I wanted to mention, because we didn't get to it, we did add a privacy fence to the rear of the parking.
Okay. So let's do. So
Wanted to
I
just
just said
mention
let's
that.
take a 10-minute recess. So say that when we get back.
Copy that.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, we are back in session. Okay, Gene, thank you for forwarding the peer review letter that you just received. Here's what I noted. There are 4 conditions that were suggested by our peer reviewer as conditions, that MassDOT approvals be obtained, CGP and SWPPP be done 14 days prior to land disturbance, that there be an O&M plan, and signed illicit discharge. Gene, are all of those conditions that we have in the decision?
I believe so.
Okay. If not, we'll make sure that we make them all conditions of the decision. There were some observations by Horsley Witten of what I call kind of notes that you had said are things that are in notes but they couldn't find. So you're just gonna have to square those things, or
Yep.
charts that they wanted more clear, things that they put on the plans, not substantive stuff, just what they want on the plans.
Yeah.
So we're gonna condition that you have to square those
Yep.
things away, okay? And then the last thing was that we already talked about was that it looked like you got to 89%, and our bylaw requires 90%, so you gotta reconfigure that to make it so that it's at least 90% and meeting the bylaw.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I ended up rereading that, and I mean, it does state, so the isolator row, we sent them the manufacturer removal rates after they've done years and years of studies on these, and it's basically the first row of the underground chambers wrapped in fabric. It's a place for sediment to settle, and then you can back it out periodically, just like a forebay on a surface pond. She states in here, it is true with what I sent her from the manufacturer, the removal rates are in excess of what the credit that the state gives you for it. So credit you for 25%, but in reality, it actually way overshoots that with empirical data that they've done. So she does state that. So I think when I run my numbers, we'll well shoot over that number. So I have very high level of confidence we can resolve
Okay.
that
Great.
and
So-
get that one addressed.
That's fine, so then we'll condition that, and then that shouldn't be an issue. Okay, anybody else, comments, things that they saw? Okay, all right, so Gene, so added conditions that we want in the decision, if they're not there, that there's illicit discharge, O&M, the CGP and SWPP, the MassDOT, which I know we have already, and that all other Horsley-Witten comments are satisfactorily addressed.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, great. You wanted to say something about something else that I already
Yeah.
forgot.
Yeah, the fence.
Fence.
I know
Thank
that
you.
was a discussion last time, and I didn't want to miss discussing it and bringing it to the board's attention. So we did add a 6-foot white vinyl stockade fence. It's about 215 feet long, and it goes the full back edge of the parking field and then comes up around the north side of the rear parking field to shield the back of the parking field. We also did a 1-foot berm, so it's actually going to sit 7 feet tall. And we think this was a good addition given the concerns from some of the neighbors. And the main thing we're hoping that this is going to solve is headlight traffic. The throwing of headlights back. A solid fence, 215 feet long, will help kill that, and we're hoping we'll keep a much darker, less light movement environment in the rear forested area between us and our neighbors to the northeast there.
Okay. And we're gonna have a light spillover, testing review a year after occupancy, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And I know that we had talked with one of the abutters about that, who had a concern, and told him that we would be doing that, so I'm glad that that's in there. We'll have the traffic review, which will include any crash data, so that we can address any turning issues that happen after. I think that should be after, obviously after MassDOT and everything is in place. So after, is that usually after occupancy?
It's usually 1 year after occupancy.
1 year, so yeah, that's good. Let's do it 1 year after.
And they can't occupy till they go through the Mass DOT process.
Perfect. So then everything lines up. They have to get conservation approval as well.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Anything else from you guys?
I don't think so.
I think we're all set.
Anything else from board members? Okay. Can
I'll
we
make
get,
a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, that passes. Now we will review the review the notice of decision.
Jane, did we decide to add, not to the statement of fact, but to the conditions, the bollards, or, and where is that?
So, I don't know the numbering yet, I have to go through it, but it will be added under special conditions. There'll be protective bollards added in the front of the residential entrance. I'll word that a little better when I get to think about it.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add that, John, condition 32 is about rooftop mechanicals shall be properly screened from properties that directly abut the site.
Yep.
Evidence of proper screening shall be provided to the planning director for confirmation of sufficiency. 33 is about the traffic monitoring requirement. I'm gonna add to that to specify crash data comparison. 41 is to sign the operation and maintenance manual, which is included in the drainage erosion. 42 is to sign the illicit discharge. 43 is the Mass DOT permit is required to be submitted. 45 is about the restaurant use that you guys spoke of. I want you to read that one and make sure that's sufficient. 47 is the lighting analysis. 50 is the stormwater pollution and prevention plan to be submitted 14 days in advance. There's also a number of conditions associated with the civil review and the traffic review, but
Where does the part about the recycling go?
That's a good one. Let's do.
So what I had stated was the first two were about recycling and refuge areas. You can either make those two a findings of fact, that they've committed to expanding the pad
Now let's
in the
do,
event that it's needed, and the sidewalks
let's do them
would
as
be a
condi-
condition.
Let's do them as conditions. I think to Kate's point, I think the recycling one can be added to number 39, which is about trash pickup times. We can add that there needs to be availability of the ability to have front and rear trash and recycling. So let's add that to 39.
The ability to have it, not necessarily to have it today, but.
Correct.
if
The
needed.
building needs to have the availability to have both trash and recycling in the front and the rear. And the bollards, I think let's just make a new condition
Yep.
there.
Again, I don't know the number because a lot of times I say per condition whatever,
Yeah.
and once you change the numbering, that,
Yes,
I just
that's
need to
fine.
go through it in more
But
detail.
That just have its own condition,
Yep.
being that there will be safety bollards placed outside the entrance to the residential section to protect from car intrusion.
Thank you.
That's good.
okay, and I'm gonna condition the internal access
And the
from
internal,
the sidewalk.
yes, correct. Thank you. That's a separate one. And let's not give alternatives to that. That'll be that the condition will be the internal access, as we stated at the public hearing, that if that doesn't work, then they can come back, but that would have to be could be a minor modification.
Yep.
Gene, in practice, have we had any yet with the affordable housing?
The first one is the Santander Bank on Main Street,
And they're not
149
done
Main
building.
Street, and they haven't yet really
Okay,
advanced construction much, so.
okay. Yeah, I
But
just-
that condition is in,
I
that
see all
one's
the
on.
conditions, I was just curious more actually, like, how it actually happens, so the filings with the
They haven't got-
affordability restrictions
Yeah.
filed and stuff like that, once the stuff is built.
they haven't gotten that far, and they're all before occupancy, so.
Okay,
But there's more than just those two, this one and Santander, there's others?
Under inclusionary zoning? No.
Oh, just
Santander
these
was
two.
the first one that was
And this was the second.
was permitted under inclusionary zoning, yeah.
okay. Any other questions, comments, changes? Okay, we get a motion to approve the CDD special site plan review, inclusionary housing and corridor development district special permits as amended.
So moved and as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain from vote. I don't feel like I've had time to review this, and I feel like we're voting on a document that we haven't seen all the changes to, and
Okay.
I'm not comfortable with that.
That is fair. All right, so that'll be for approval. One abstain. Okay. All right, very good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the list, 500 Great Pond Road, Boyd Hulk, General Manager, North Andover Country Club. Emergency watershed special permit under Article 4, Part 5, 195, 4.21. Petitioner proposes removal of 31 upland trees on the property which are within the high water elevation of the lake and the topping of large shrubs. The property is located within the R1 zoning district. All right, this is a discussion item. Jean, why don't you give us I know there's a lot in the staff report, so why don't you give us a short introduction? I'm sure we'll get into things as we go, and then we'll hear from the applicant. And I know I have a lot of questions, and
Yep.
others probably do too.
So the applicant reached out to me, I forget if it was Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, but kind of through the email communication insinuated that he was looking for a quick approval because he'd like to do the work within the months of January and February due to the ground being frozen during that time frame. And so he understood he needed to apply for a watershed special permit as well as a notice of intent. The proposal was to remove 31 trees that are located along a fairway, between the fairway and the lake itself. It was described within the high water level of the lake. I explained that the timing of that application submitted on December 24th would take at least 2 months to get through planning, and then there'd be a 20-day appeal period, and so it would be into March, in my opinion. At that point, the applicant requested, is there any avenue for waivers or exemptions through DPW? I stated there wasn't, but in the bylaw, there is an emergency permit provision. In my tenure, it's never been applied for. I've never seen an application for an emergency permit and an approval within any of the files that are in the lower level of the office, so I've never come upon it. My caution was that the board may want to entertain either a stormwater review or an arborist review. I've spoken to the conservation administrator. Her opinion was that the Conservation Commission at a minimum would likely want to seek out advice from an arborist in terms of the health of the trees, the impact to the shoreline, the impact to the lake of removing them, but that NOI won't open to the 14th as well. And then I detail in the staff report the zoning bylaw itself. It's required that the planner will make 2 specific findings. One is that the work proposed is deemed necessary for the protection of the quality and quantity of the water in or entering the lake, and that the proposed work must be undertaken before a regular special permit application process could be completed. And I will note, it also specifies that the work must be done within 60 days. And so if you did want to entertain some type of peer review in this application, it likely would not be done within 60 days. I have included, so there's pictures included, and I detail in my staff report that the general manager did come for a TRC meeting in August of 2023. It was kind of these permit responsibilities were laid out at that time. That was when the lake was at I think, an all-time high, and so very likely those trees were submerged at that time. However, at this time, we're in the exact opposite situation where it's drought conditions, and I provided pictures from December of this year, and most recently today, I added pictures from a consultant who took aerial photos related to a unrelated project that he's working on for the town, but he did capture aerial photos from September of this year, where again, they're not submerged at this time. Not to say that they weren't in 23. I think the lake was high enough that they likely were submerged, as well as the playground area. But that's just a condition that doesn't exist today. The application was sent to John Borghese, the town engineer and assistant director of DPW, to get any input he may have, but he was on vacation until today, and so I've not heard back from John yet. A replanting plan was included in the notice of intent application, but it wasn't included in this application, so I don't have a replanting plan to provide for you. So I think that's the majority of it.
Okay, sir, want to hear from you?
Yeah, I started at the club 3 years ago, and almost exactly 3 years ago, 3 years ago next month. And in the first year I was there was probably 4 to 5 months where we had a large portion of our lakeside, which affects, goes from our playground up the length of our ninth fairway. And we had more than 150 trees that were underwater, and I provided pictures a couple years ago, which, you know, to a certain degree doesn't bother us because we know it kind of comes and goes. We've had droughts and we've had floods. But after that flood event, we did hire Maureen Harold with North Engineering to come and take a look at the trees to find out and let us know if, should there be flood events again, are there trees that we should be considering trying to remove now that are either upland, invasive, non-native trees that would not be affected by any future floods, because we do know floods may come and floods may go. But the club does have an interest that we're a membership club and we rely on having members, and we didn't want to necessarily come up with a situation a year from now, years down the road, where we have a bunch of dead trees along the lakeside that could have been and should have been removed because they were just not the type of trees that can actually handle being submerged in water. And so out of all of the trees that we're looking at, from our playground to our tennis courts, which is roughly about 1.5 football fields long, we're actually looking at just a small portion of it that contains a significant number, approximately 31 trees that are upland trees that are not native to a wetland area. And according to the wetland scientist we had, she said they probably would not survive long term if submerged again. And as a club, you know, we have no idea if we're ever going to get floods again like what we had that year, but we could have multiple ones. And so all we're looking to now to do, and again, I know stuff got laid out to me a couple of years ago, but it kind of takes us a while to get stuff done. It took us a while to get the surveys and everything, to get through all the little hoops. And we really only have a short window. We have January and February where the ground is frozen enough that we could actually have any kind of vehicles, heavy vehicles that come on to get rid of the trees that won't damage the golf course beyond repair or damage the underlying irrigation systems that are very sensitive. So ideally, and we're actually missing a window now that's probably going to end with the warm weather that's coming up, but we hope between, you know, the beginning of February, the end of January to the end of February, we might have another window where we have snow cover and frozen ground that we can actually go there, remove the trees, and we actually don't like seeing the lake as low it is right now, but it provides us an opportunity to be able to remove trees safely without anyone having to get into water to remove the trees. We're not talking about any stump removals or anything like that, just cut them down to the ground, just the trees that we're told to understand don't need to be there. And so we do have a unique window, and again, I've heard from someone else through Jean that she's never seen this before, but the only reason we're asking is we have a unique window that if we don't meet it, it'll be January or February of next year.
So, do we have anything from arborist, wetland scientist, anything in this application?
We do have, well,
No, do I, like, literally in front of me have anything that says all the things you're saying?
I know it was submitted, everything was submitted, so I figured you guys would have it, so I didn't bring a copy of it. I do have a copy of it back at the club.
Is that part of, sorry, Gene, is that part of the application?
Not that I know of. So we do have the whole application. That was that's what's been
The whole
submitted.
application was submitted, so.
Yeah.
I don't see anything. Okay, so here's,
Unless you're saying maybe it's in the NOI that got submitted to Conservation Commission, but it wasn't submitted to this group. So I'm not saying it didn't.
it's not, yeah,
Some
it's definitely
manner,
not
but-
part of
Yeah.
this application. So here's, I have a couple issues. Our bylaw is pretty specific, and the bylaw for this emergency says we may issue an emergency special permit if we find that the work proposed is deemed necessary for the protection of the quantity or quality of the water in or entering Lake Chishowick. I don't see anything before us that says that this is necessary for the protection of the lake. It sounds like it could be a good idea, and maybe at some point it might be a problem, but it seems like, and I know you said, I understand with golf course and with planning that things take a while, but that kind of makes the point that it's not an emergency. If it's taken 3 years to get here, I mean, I don't like, not to like belittle it, but like kind of poor planning on your part doesn't make it an emergency on our part. And I don't see that this is an emergency that would, one, allow us to cut down trees in the lake, two, to allow us to bypass having peer reviews, and three, to bypass public hearings. I mean, we have gone so far out of our way to tell people not to cut down trees in the lake and on the lake shore, and have punished them severely financially for doing so. So it's good that you're coming and asking, but I think in my opinion, it doesn't meet the definitions of an emergency permit under our bylaw. And if you want to do it, great, go through the full process. And if it's allowed, fine, but I think you need documentation from the wetland scientist, documentation, not that it's possibly going to be a problem, that it literally is a problem, and this is what it's going to cause, and this is like the only solution is taking down these trees, because we are very, very hesitant to cut trees in the watershed, especially that close to the lake. So it would have to be compelling, and I think it needs to go through the full process. That's kind of where I come down. And so basically you go start the process now, and if you get all your approvals, then yeah, next winter you do it in the timeframes that you have set up, get your approval and have it ready. But it doesn't, to me, meet the definition of an emergency, just because it would be better for the golf course to do it in the winter, which I understand. That's my thoughts. But others, Peter, I know.
Well, I agree that we appreciate you coming here instead of just cutting them, because as the chair mentioned, we've had that, and there were significant financial consequences to that. So we have several large institutional landowners around the lake. And the lake obviously has wonderful aesthetic qualities, but it's our sole source of drinking water. So we take that very seriously. And in 1986, we had a significant problem that cost the town many, many millions of dollars to address. And so having gone through that experience that I know Dick is familiar with, it reinforces the importance of protecting that sole source of drinking water, and the vegetation along the shoreline is part of that. Not only preventing the erosion, but filtering stormwater before it gets to the lake. So I do think that, you know, the points you made could be deemed valid, but we really, given the importance of the drinking water, we would have to have those assessments and peer reviews. So I agree with the chair that process is there not because of unimportant bureaucratic reasons, but because of protecting this resource that you're one of the institutional landowners that we rely on to help us protect an asset that affects every single person in town. So in effect, you are the neighbor of every resident of town because they all drink that water. That's how important it is to us to have those processes. It is not just a bureaucratic exercise.
So, the person you spoke to may be right that it is more beneficial to take down these trees than it is to have them there, because of risks with flooding and things like that. It's hard, again, it's hard to make it the argument when it's an emergency, when it's like we're at our lowest levels, and we don't want to wait either until it is an actual emergency. So I get that as well. But you're asking for an emergency declaration now. It doesn't seem to apply. But I'm not in a position to, even if we were to go forward and say, let's consider this application, to say that it's that this is the right thing to do. It could be. I just don't think there's enough information to say so.
And it's unfortunate that you guys don't have it, because I know it was submitted, as a wetlands permit that was done, but it included having a 2-for-1 for every tree that went out. It was going to be 2 shrubs planted in instead. That would help with any kind of erosion and stuff along the shoreline.
And does it take into account appropriate 2-for-1 shrubs for that environmental area along the shoreline?
Well, again, it was done by Norse Engineering, and she's done a lot of work around the lake.
Yeah.
Maureen Harold, she's a wetland scientist, and
Yeah.
she did it all.
Well,
It's all
those-
been added to a survey.
Those are all good things.
So maybe that went to, I don't know if that went to Concom, but it's not in our application. But what would happen is that would come in and we'd review that, and then we'd send it to peer review, and then we'd probably want an arborist. And there's a, when it's, like Peter said, when it's this kind of important and this close to the lake, we really have to go through the right processes, and that's just not gonna happen in the time frame that you're looking for. So I think it should happen, but just not in 2 weeks.
So it's just a comment, because I just looked at the application and I didn't realize the extent of the flooding. So Gene, could you maybe just walk me through on, like, if a property owner has extensive flooding on their property as a function of the lake, who do they call? Because, like, don't we have control of, like, DPW have control of the hatch, right?
Yes.
So I guess what does that process look like?
So in 2023 it happened,
Yep.
and Brooks School reached out to the DPW.
Mhm.
And I know they had a few meetings. They were also under a special permit with this board and an NOI
Mhm.
for improvements that they were doing for a boathouse.
Mhm.
And so we met on site as well, but the DPW is the one that, I won't say controls the lake level. What's changed is it's going to its natural level today,
Yep.
is how it's been described to me. It's not that they're increasing or lowering the lake,
Mhm.
any different management style that's ever been done,
Mhm.
but when we purchased 400 Great Pond Road, it allowed us to go to the natural level,
Got it.
so.
And just to comment on Gene's comments, the purchase of 400 Great Pond Road was not intended to permanently raise the level of the lake.
Mhm.
It was intended that in the spring, when there's high water, to not have to prematurely drain it because of the hazardous materials in the basement of 400 Great Pond. Instead, we could allow the natural level to go down and not have to prematurely drain it, but it was not intended to permanently raise the level of the lake.
Got it.
But there's still that increased risk for us to have flooding because of that.
The potential in, for example, the spring, yes. So, I mean, as the chair said, that this could have benefit for both the country club and for the town and the lake. But because it's such a critical asset, we have to go through that peer review process. Be irresponsible of us not to. And it's not that we don't respect the work you have done. You took 2 to 3 years to carefully do that work through your process. We need more than one meeting to reflect on it, and our timeline would be substantially faster than yours.
And I think the disconnect is Norse Environmental has the expertise to file the NOI, and they probably filed the NOI where Merrimack Engineering, I believe, filed with the planning board. So the project engineer filed here.
Okay.
Who owns the lake bed? Below the low water mark, or presumably. It's not the state.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
Who
question.
owns the lake bed?
I believe the town. The lake itself and the bank?
Yes, exactly,
Yes.
with low water. It's usually low water mark
It's
or
high water.
high water.
We call it the high water, yeah, but it's.
But this is the high water. But you own the property, for sure.
We're celebrating our 129th year.
Well,
Does that
congratulations.
include when you were on the other side of the lake or at the current location, 129?
You know, I'm not sure. I know it did start on the other side of the lake, but
Yeah.
it was North Andover Bicycle and Boat Club.
Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't affect this.
kind of.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
You can still see some of the stone foundation. There's very little left from what had been the boathouse portion of the club on the other side of the lake. And it's much harder to see, but you can see two flattened areas with some birch trees that used to be the tennis courts.
A quick little primer for you. It was owned, the land was owned by the Stevens family on the opposite side, and the Stevens family were 4 of our first 10 presidents of our club. But there was, they had built a golf course on where the current golf course is in 1899, I believe. And they kept taking boats over so often that they decided to just move the clubhouse to the same site. And we did have a golf course in the 1890s, 1899, I believe. And then in 1920, they hired Donald Ross to redesign the course.
So I would say that I don't think we can declare it a emergency, that we can't approve an emergency watershed special permit, but go through the conservation process, go through the process, and let's see what comes of it. I know we're not making any determinations about the merits of it, but it doesn't meet the criteria for an emergency watershed special permit.
This is off the subject, but in September, we had a group reach out to us that was represented an autism group, and they were looking for extra golf balls. So we actually walked through this whole area, and we removed 300 golf balls, cleaned them, and gave them to an autism group that apparently wanted leftover golf balls.
Since you've raised an off-topic subject,
Yep.
I appreciate you doing that. I have removed approximately 500 of the country club's golf balls from the lake water over the last 10 years. I am no longer doing that.
Floating?
No, on the bottom, visible. I estimate that there are at least 500 to 1,000 of the country club's golf balls still in the lake. And I personally am concerned that over a very long period of time, that plastic is degrading into the water. And some of the golf balls that I've recovered that I would be happy to show you or club members date from prior to the modern dimpling of golf balls. The previous versions, which I think are from the 1950s, were dimples in rows, and before that, they were smooth. I think they might have been called guptas or a word like that. They date from the 1920s and earlier, and I have found some of those golf balls among the 500 to 1,000 that are still lying in the water. So over 100 years, they certainly are decaying into the water, and it is a great concern of mine. Now, a lot of those 500 to 1,000 are actually quite new, and so they also could be pulled out and cleaned and offered. And in fact, I still have some in my basement that I'm trying to get rid of, and I would be very happy if you could help me get rid of those, and I'd be happy to show you the antique ones that I've also recovered.
Well, those might be valuable, so I'll take those.
What's that?
Those old ones might be quite valuable, so.
Maybe a contest, who can get the most golf balls out
I
of the lake?
think a contest on who could get the most would really be terrific. It would help clean up the lake, and it might be fun as well, and we would appreciate the help of the country club.
Yeah, this fall, we did pick up 300 of the ones that we could easily access, so.
Lots more left.
Okay.
Do we have to vote?
No, I don't, well, no, because it's a discussion item, so I don't think so.
I hope you follow through. I think it's something that should be considered. Sounds like you've already done a lot of work that should not be wasted. We have a good process to help you review that. It'll be much faster than your process, so I hope you proceed.
Gene, is there an application? Should we vote on the application?
My recommendation would be to vote if you
Okay.
are gonna deny it,
Fine.
to vote
Okay.
on it.
Okay.
And I would just add one technical point, and so to file with conservation, technically she can't take it in until they file for all other necessary permits. And so there might be a little hiccup with Amy.
Is our permit
in that
necessary?
A special permit would be necessary to do what they wanna do.
Okay.
vegetation removal within 100 feet of the lake requires a watershed special permit. So you might have to turn, it's the exact same application.
Right.
It just needs to be noticed to abutters, which it wasn't noticed. And so,
Right.
I'm just, heads up, there might be a little technical.
So can we get a motion to approve? Yeah, we'll do it, just, we always do the motion to approve.
Deny, right?
Well, I think it's best actually just to do it as a motion to approve
Approve what?
the special permit and
And
then, and then vote against it.
Right.
You mean to approve,
Could
The
we just have a
the
motion
emergency
to
permit.
deny?
seems to me that would be the cleaner, because it's already in front of us, right?
Yeah. But,
We could decide that it doesn't meet the,
yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. I just,
qualify as an
I think
emergency.
I try to do the same motion, right? Approve, disapprove, and then you just vote against it, but it's the same.
I
It's the
think
same
it would be
thing.
cleaner.
Okay, can we get a motion
What you
to deny the emergency watershed special permit?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you for
Thank you, though.
considering it, Lisa.
yes, nope,
And how can I get you those antique balls and hopefully discuss perhaps how you can help us get all the other ones out of the lake?
Well, if the lake stays low, we'll go back out and get
Gene's
as
got-
many as we can.
she's got your email, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yep.
Discussion item, potential May 12th, 2026 annual town meeting zoning bylaw amendments.
All right, so the good news is, these are the only two that I'm aware of this year, and they both would be planning board sponsored. They're in reaction to the Attorney General's decision on last year's approval of our accessory dwelling unit bylaw. We covered that, I want to say October, it's in the staff report, but we kind of walked through their recommendations and then denials of some language. And so all I've done is incorporate that in both the ADU bylaw and added to the limited site plan review, any ADU proposed on a non-conforming structure or a lot that contains a non-conforming structure. So in that scenario, and I wanted to make sure, I wanted to get your opinion, in that scenario, it wouldn't matter if it's attached, within, or detached, if it's on a lot that contains a non-conforming pre-existing structure. So,
That's what the AG says we need to do, right?
I don't know that they specifically said if it's attached or within, or if you want to differentiate that if it's only detached. To date, it's been only detached on a multifamily or a,
Oh, okay.
or any ADU.
That's fine.
so. But in this scenario, I kept it because if it's a non-conforming structure, we can't specify a minimum lot size anymore. But if it's on a non-conforming structure, it likely is because of the lot size and they don't meet the setbacks. And so I presumed that if they're gonna add to that non-conforming structure, it's gonna make everything more non-conforming.
Okay.
And I don't know if you wanna go through it piece by piece. Some language they struck, and I just highlighted that they struck it, and so the warrant article wouldn't include that language anymore, and the rest of it is in warrant format, where it's underlined if it's being added. There was one housekeeping edit in the purpose, because at some point, the numerical flow of the bylaw changed, and so I'm just cleaning that up. But for the most part, all the other edits are a result of the Attorney General's decision. And I will say that limited site plan review is just becoming a little cumbersome in that we've edited it and edited it again and adding these things, and it's just wordy, in my opinion. So we could either blow it up and try to rewrite it now that we know all these uses have become limited site plan, or we just add to it and keep it simple.
I think for now, let's add to it and then maybe take a
Okay.
stab at everything else. Okay.
So to go hand in hand with that, given that these two are right now the only bylaw amendments, I'm proposing for the first public hearing to be February 24th and go to the Tribune 2 weeks ahead of that with the noticing and whatnot. And that would put the third public hearing on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, where you would make your recommendations. And again, it's not a heavy lift this year, so I think that timetable would be suitable.
Okay.
discussion item question,
Okay.
different than this.
Yeah.
Is there anything about Royal Crest that we know of that we could be informed of or not?
I think the only thing is that it was purchased, and there's a group that purchased it, and something's going to happen.
Okay,
That's
All
all. I think that's it so far, because I don't think there's any determinations yet of plans or what's going there, Dover, non-Dover, any of that kind of stuff.
and that would depend on who the owner actually is.
Owner, use,
Good, okay.
a lot of things.
All right, and then
If
my,
it's split up,
Okay.
there's a lot
okay.
that could happen. So.
My second discussion question has to do in reading the minutes that we're gonna vote on. There was a discussion about whether or not the board was gonna send a letter, I think to the town manager, about the traffic with Amazon and which way is it turning because of the Sutton Street, Main Street backups. And I'm not quite sure what happened to that discussion. I'm not.
So you're not
quoting
asking.
the
You're not
minutes.
asking to change the minutes. You're
No,
just
I'm
saying,
not.
Oh, Gene and I discussed trying to set a meeting with the town manager and the Amazon representative to discuss the mitigation and the concerns raised by the traffic study,
Yep.
and to see if there's any kind of further action that
Okay.
should need to happen.
So there's follow-up.
Yes.
Yes,
All right,
so
well,
my
yeah,
recollection
thank
is
you.
it shifted from writing a letter
Yeah.
to maybe we should have a meeting.
Okay,
Right.
And I've reached out to Eton, I gave him all my notes, and we decided to wait till after the holiday season.
Yeah.
We didn't think it
not
was.
to do that Christmas Eve?
Yes.
Yeah,
I was available, but
I was busy doing the decision for 1591 on Christmas Eve, so
Yeah.
we we're
Okay.
gonna have that.
All right.
So, before we leave that topic, so just process-wise, because we approved, or the board approved another, decision tonight that has a one-year traffic monitoring study, and so presumably somebody will come back and present to the board, which they did with the Amazon on December 2nd or whenever that was, and, and that was a discussion item. You know, we had the opportunity to ask questions, but it wasn't, Amazon didn't have a chance to, and they had, you know, rebuttal and that kind of thing.
the non-Amazon people, the abutters, the Osgood people.
They did talk a little bit,
Yeah,
but then
right.
the Amazon folks didn't.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious about process. So now it sounds like there's gonna be a smaller, not board meeting to discuss the outcome of that.
Yeah, so there's no
And it's-
formal process left for the traffic review for Amazon. The formal processes that were part of the special permit have finished. So there's nothing.
What would that be? So what it was somebody did a traffic study and just presented it to the board with no action?
Correct. The requirement of the requirement of the conditions was to do a traffic study, and that was it. There's no more board process after that unless we initiate something else, and that would have to be because a condition of the permit is not being met. So right now, we're meeting with Amazon to see, really just as good neighbors and facilitators, to try to see if there are issues that need to be worked out, and if so, can we work them out? And if not, if there are things that are not functioning as the permit is required, then should something come back to the board for consideration?
So the consultant had very specific recommendations that,
Yep.
at the end of their presentation, but, so what happens to those?
I mean, so there's nothing in the decision that requires anything to be enacted, again, unless the conditions aren't being met. So I think it's up to town manager, and the board wanted to follow up and to decide if there's anything else that can or should be done. So I think for now, it's just trying to see if there are, some of those conditions are not, I mean, they're nice, but they're not feasible, like financially or anything like that, nor some of them are, I don't think, feasible that we could require them. But I think it's, at this point where it's, the process is done, it's kind of trying to see, hey, is there's stuff that could be done better? Can we talk about a way to do that? But it's not a formal process. So it doesn't necessarily need to involve the planning board, it's more the planner and town staff and things like that, but sometimes a representative here helps just in case, just with familiarity with the project and stuff like that.
And the night that the results of the traffic monitoring study, and again, I'm thinking of it in terms of the decision that was adopted today too. The night that was presented, the Osgood Landing people were given a couple minutes to talk, but not particularly substantively. But the Amazon had things to say, and we were unable to hear them, and so it's kind of like we were left with not knowing, whether there was some other facts that were missing from the study that cost money and, was done. It just sounds kind of like an empty requirement.
No, I mean, so it depends on what the results of the traffic study. Like, if the result of the traffic study were that there were 15,000 vehicles and it was a 300% increase, then that would probably mean that they're not meeting the conditions of their permit, and therefore, and their assumptions were all wrong, and therefore there's something that needs to be done and the condition needs to be modified. So it gives us the opportunity, if there's an extreme, to enforce, but basically it's a way to just see what the situation is and make sure that there's at least some continued communication, because what it's been in the past, until when did we start doing these, like 4 or 5 years ago, some of these?
The year look backs?
Yeah, because when you make a decision, you don't know for sure whether what you're saying is exactly right. You need some level of flexibility to see whether you got to tweak something or modify something, and that's what we've done. I think it's a good process.
But generally before that, it was, here's your permit and hopefully everything works out.
Yeah, or we'd specify certain things that might not make sense or not, or we'd accept. It's probably whether we would just accept what they said and not have a chance to resolve it down the road. So, and that forces us to be more specific, but you're not always going to be right.
But it doesn't reopen the hearing or anything like that.
Right.
So it really it's basically designed for, is something really goes wrong, to be able to jump in and find out, hey, something really went wrong, and what are we going to do about it? And that what are we going to do about it can be informal. It doesn't have to be a formal planning board process. But then if let's say we go and meet with them and there really are some bigger issues and they can't be solved informally, then maybe it does have to come back for a modification or something like that. But the process after we grant the permit is informal, and so that's kind of what it is, and that's why it was a discussion item. And really, honestly, I think what happened was that there's a neighbor dispute about how things are running over there, and it didn't seem appropriate for that to take over us getting information, which was what was going to happen.
No, Amazon had prepared a presentation in response to the actual report, and what they weren't allowed to give that night, and maybe that was a misunderstanding because of the remote stuff.
I thought their response was going to be to
just rebut
the other person's.
No,
yes.
I don't think. Okay, that
so
makes
that's
sense. Okay.
that's what I thought it was. So.
Okay.
But so we are going to have some follow up,
Okay.
and then depending on
but
what that happens.
You make a good point, and I mean, I was here when we started this year later look back, but even though I was here, it helps me put this in context. That was a process improvement that we started to basically kind of validate, is this going to work? But the decision is still the decision.
Right.
And that's why it's an informal look back, which the applicant agrees to, and then it becomes a condition. So that's why, but it, I think, has been a helpful, and I was just curious, how's the follow-up going?
Yeah.
So if you need
It's in
some
process.
help,
Yes.
let me know, but it sounds like it's in hand, and thank you for the follow-up.
Okay, great, thanks for those points. Can we get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So
from December
moved.
2nd? Second by John.
Before you adjourn,
Yeah.
I just,
Well, let's do the meeting minutes.
okay, sorry.
All in
that's not
favor?
in-
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry. So I just want to announce Bonnie is retiring on January 17th,
Oh.
and so if any well wishes can be extended to her through an email or whatnot,
Is there a
I would
party?
appreciate it. Not a party that I know of, but, but it's 2 weeks out, and she is retiring on the 17th.
Awesome. Okay. All right, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved, second.
Oh, wow, that was quick. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Adjourned.